Hello
I
and
know.
welcome back to the Obvious Choice podcast. I'm here as always with Amber, with Ren. Really happy to be with you all back again. Over the course of 7 days in 2019, I helped 930 personal trainers generate 4,298 new clients, each paying $197. The system that I taught them, that we worked with them on, had an 84% success rate, and the average trainer got 4.62 clients. In total, in only 7 days, these trainers generated $846,706 in profit. Now, I say profit, their only expense was payment processing fees. There's no paid ads or anything like that. I called it the Founding Client Challenge. And I want to talk to you about it today, and I'll teach you the method today so you can just go and do it tomorrow, to be honest. But I want to get into a little bit more detail about the why behind some of the parts as well, which we've never really had an example to do or an opportunity to do, I guess. So today you're going to learn that method and that system. And we're going to give a little bit of behind the scenes of like why it works. And you can do this to launch anything. Like I actually followed a version of this to launch Quick Coach. We had over 5,000 people registered on day one. And yes, part of that was my existing audience and platform for sure. But a lot of that actually was a lot of the same kind of permission marketing type principles that I'm going to talk to you about here. And that's how the video got spread so much. Because as anybody knows that has ever launched anything, much to my chagrin, when you put something out in the real world, all of a sudden the well-wishers and supporters seem to simultaneously disappear into the ether. And they're gone. And it sucks. But there's a way that you can still get support from other people when you're launching something, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So when they're coming after you. So the premise of this idea, the premise of the founding client challenge is quite simple. There's effectively 5 steps. You've created a new 60-day fitness or nutrition program. I should be clear, this is not just for fitness or nutrition, okay? But you've created a new 60-day fitness or nutrition program. Number 2, you need 5 founding clients max to help test it. Number 3, you don't have everything figured out yet. Number 4, you're offering a huge discount. And number 5, it starts on a firm date. So we're going to get into those a little bit more, particularly some examples of the fitness and nutrition programs. But before we do that, I want to talk about the idea of newness, because a big element of this is newness, is actually admitting that you're new. Newness is great for business. It's a damaging admission that can be used to justify a promotion. And I first kind of learned about this idea actually from one of the sort of legendary marketing books called The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. And Law 15 is the law of candor, which states, when you admit a negative, the prospect will give you a positive. So I'll read you a little bit from this very short book. It says, first and foremost, candor is very disarming. Every negative statement you make about yourself is instantly accepted as truth. Positive statements, on the other hand, are looked at as dubious at best, especially in an advertisement. You have to prove a positive statement to the prospect's satisfaction. No proof is needed for a negative statement. Whenever you're running out any kind of a sale or promotion or discount, there kind of has to be a reason for it. If there isn't, what starts to happen is people only buy from you and people only expect that there's going to be a sale and they're going to wait for that sale, or they're not going to trust your regular pricing or believe that your regular pricing is genuine. There has to be a reason for a sale, and the reason kind of has to be predicated on something that you don't have to prove. Anybody can say that their thing is good. The minute that you say that your thing is not so good, people immediately trust it and immediately pay attention a little bit more. The most famous example of this is Hertz Car Rental, which admitted that they were second place in the car rental business. And we try harder? Is that
Yeah,
what it
we're
was?
second
Amber?
place, so we have to try harder. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Something like that. I love
Right.
it.
And so if they say we try really hard, if they say we really love you as the customer, if they say we have 47,000 service agents, we have a faster response time at every airport, we have less lineups, immediately you're like, you'll prove it. Like, I don't believe you. Like, everybody says that. Like, everybody can say that. But the minute that they say, we're not the best, we're not number one, we're number two, and that lights a fire under our ass to treat you better. It's disarming. And so this idea that you're new and using that as what's called a damaging admission justifies a promotion, complete with a discount, complete with urgency. Urgency means there's time running out, and complete with scarcity, which means there's quantity running out. Independent of one another, a discount, scarcity, and urgency can be effective, but when you combine all three of them, you have a great offer. The problem is a lot of people get all too trigger happy on building offers these days, and they don't give any reason for the offer. And even if it works one time, it can kind of ruin their business. And so the reason that this founding client challenge works well is because you can repeat it. It has that damaging admission, and it has the three components of a great offer. I don't think I've ever actually explained the philosophy or the thought process behind it before. It was like, no, you should have done this 4 fucking years ago when you announced this thing.
Yep.
But love you. Olive juice you too. But the idea here is this idea of newness. So in some cases, the trainers were new to online fitness training. In other cases, the trainers use this model to run out a new program, or give their existing service a new name and jumpstart their clientele. You don't have to be brand new to your thing. Instead, all that you have to do is you have to be doing something new, which you probably are, because you probably realized that 6 months ago what you were doing was kind of dumb and stupid, and you've learned so much since then that you're embarrassed by it, and now you're improving. That's what people do who are determined to continue to get better. And if you're listening to podcasts like this, that's probably you. And so you're continually getting better, which means, yeah, it's perfectly justified to be able to put out a new program, or at least put a name on a new program, or evolve your program into version 2.0 or whatever you do, right? I do some version of permission launches or founding client challenges with everything that I do. When I come out with a book, it's the same thing. I'm going to do a program like this to have basically test readerships and early readers. It's going to be how many books have I written, Ren?
I didn't know you were a writer, actually. It's news to me. I've never heard you talk about that ever.
Really?
Podcast.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm embarrassed by some of them. I sent out a blog post today. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I wrote a blog post today again.
I blocked you on all email, so
I was
can't
so
really
excited.
Be sure.
Yeah. Well, I've been talking about it for so
like
long,
that
right?
again.
You know why it happened, Emma? Because I was sitting down, and we need to have I'm having a recalibration meeting with Jennifer tomorrow just about all the media stuff. And I was sitting down, and after about 10 minutes of feeling like a complete imbecile staring out my window, thinking about how I'm going to organize all of the media and all of these things that I feel like I should be doing, I just opened up a window and I just said, fuck it, I'm just going to write this. Mm-hmm. And I've been thinking about writing like that as the first kind of blog post back. And I've got a list of like 15 things I want to write, but I'm like, I'm going to do this when I'm ready. And then what I realized is that actually what happens is when I start the thing is when I figure out what the thing is. The process of doing the work helps me figure out what the work actually is, versus all of the time spent sitting back and saying, oh, I'm not quite ready for this yet. We've got to wait for these pieces to fall into place. And so in the hour that I set aside to prepare for that meeting tomorrow with Jennifer, after about 10 minutes of realizing that there was no way that I could prepare for that meeting without actually doing the work, I just started typing it and sent it out. And then immediately afterwards, no joke, I just opened up my notebook and just mapped out every single thing that we're going to be doing.
You just needed to get the juices flowing. I have to do the same thing. I need to work on something, get my brain thinking, and it's so much easier to slide into the next thing. It's like, so much better.
So what you're saying, if I'm hearing you properly, is that it's important first to get the juices flowing if you want to slide into the thing?
How do I do this to myself? How?
It's remarkable. I've never seen an adult human not learn a lesson with so many consecutive mistakes. It's been years now.
For this podcast.
The workout that I did this morning sucked, and my body's crushed. It was everybody like bitches about burpees and talks about how stupid they are from a programming standpoint, and I don't disagree, but I also think there's like almost a mental fortitude with them a little bit, so I don't mind them in a program for that reason. Kind of the same as ice baths, but ice baths are fucking stupid. And so so anyway, so the workout this morning sucked. It was 50 burpees, 500 meters of rowing, 40 burpees, 500 meters of rowing, 30, 20, 10 with 500 meters in between. And in 25 minutes, right? And so one of the guys didn't quite finish in time, and he kept going to finish it. And one of the other guys, Danny, was just like, pull harder, 2 more strokes. That's it. 1 more stroke and you've got it. And you're done. And I'm just sitting there. And we're dead, right? Like I'm lying on the floor in a puddle of my own goddamn sweat. And I'm just sitting there just laughing so hard, man.
You're never too tired to make a dirty joke.
This is true.
Yeah. I'm glad that this can get your juices flowing, and we're gonna move on. So let's give some examples before I talk about how to actually get your founding clients, because I'm sure that's the question that anybody was asking as they're listening to this. Like, yeah, that sounds wonderful. How do I get that person? How do I find people to speak to? Right. Which is always the question. And how do I reach out to a list? I don't have a social media platform, or I don't have an email list, or maybe I do, but how do I reach out to them? So we're going to get into that. Before we do, Amber, do you remember any really good examples of the fitness and nutrition programs, like the names of them or the ideas behind them that anybody had?
Oh no, my brain's like a sieve for stuff like that. It just
doesn't retain. Well, I mean, I called it 5160, right? Which is just a basic statement, which is 5 clients, 1 transformation goal. So you're selling the transformation because you don't even know what's in this thing yet. And my opinion, and we teach this to students of the online trainer mentorship, my opinion is that actually you don't know yet what's going to go into anybody's program until you've worked with them. And so it's interesting because in the Online Trainer Academy, we actually teach our students something different than the Online Trainer Mentorship. And to me, that's just a level of becoming comfortable in what you're doing. In the Online Trainer Academy, what we teach you is to say, okay, here's how I'm going to build my templates. Here's how I'm going to build my programs. Okay, here's what's going to go into these different packages. And that's how you figure out your pricing. That's what you do when you're just starting out, because you don't actually really know any of anything. And what you figure out after you've worked with a bunch of clients is that every single client is going to need something different, and that's going to change over time. But you kind of have to start from that level of comfort, of feeling like you have some of that stuff kind of done. Whereas in the Online Trainer Mentorship, what we teach is a little bit different. We basically say, give yourself enough space to give somebody what they need, when they need it, and how they need it. Some people are going to need a lot more programming than others. Some people are going to need a lot more phone calls and hand-holding than others. And over time, that might change as well. For example, somebody's getting ready for an event. They might need a little bit more programming or hand-holding or support. And then another time in their life, whatever, work gets busy. They're not going to train as often. You don't actually charge them differently for those two. Your job is to be there and provide them support with whatever they need at that time. And that will shift. And that just has to do with the seasons of life. So the idea with the 5160 is 5 clients and 1 goal, and 60 days. Now, I know that fitness and health and transformation, life isn't a 30-day challenge, life isn't a 60-day challenge. I buy into that. But you've got to kind of meet people where they're at if you want to take them where you believe that they need to go. And it's very hard to sell a lifetime transformation. It's very hard to sell slow, moderate change, deep health, whatever you want to call it. You kind of need to sell a shorter term transformation, get them results there, get their buy-in to be able to get in and do the real work for longer, which is another reason why this founding client challenge works really well, because it gives you permission to go in and do the deep work with those people. You've gotten them some success immediately, and they believe you and they trust you. And also, more notably, I believe that they trust themselves, because in many cases, somebody embarking on a fitness routine has tried and failed at it before, unfortunately. And if you can give them that hope that there's going to be a better future, that they're going to be able to achieve, then they're going to be really bought into the process personally, right? And then you become their steward in the process. You're their supporter. It kind of always has to come from within. Whenever anybody wants to make a change, it kind of has to always come from within. So 160. So I'm looking for 5 clients. I'm looking for 5 whatever men between the ages of 30 and 38 years old, because odd numbers seem to be more trustworthy. You know, if I say 30 to 40, people are like, yeah, you just picked big round numbers. But if I say 30 to 38, people think that there's a reason for it, even though there's not. It's funny. It's like asking somebody, it's like, yeah, man, come, let's just meet at the park, or let's just meet at the bar, or whatever it is, at 4:37 p.m. They're like, 4:37 p.m.? It's a weird random number. It's like, actually, if you think about it, it's not any more random than 4:30 or 5. It's just a minute. But you feel like there has to be a reason to it. And this is just copywriting. This is why I told you $846,706 in profit that this generated, and not $850,000 or over $800,000, is because you immediately assume, and I mean, it's true, like we calculated it, like it is a true number, but you immediately assume that there has to be some sort of reasoning or calculation behind a very kind of random number. So you could say, I'm looking for 5 men aged 30 to 38 who are looking to put on 3 to 5 pounds of muscle and have their t-shirt fit a little bit better around their shoulders in the next 60 days. If that's you or somebody that you know, this is a new program. I'm offering a test group, and I'm offering 60% discount on the first one, right? That's a basic kind of 160. So whatever that is for you, choose it. We got a lot of pushback whenever we do this, Amber. It's like, whoa, why does it have to be 5 clients? Can't it be 8 clients? What if 6 people want to go? And it's like, it could be like, I believe in telling the truth. I believe in, if you say something, you do that thing. I did a promotion for the Online Trainer Academy. It had an end date. If somebody messages me the next day and says I didn't get in, can I please get the offer? The answer is no. Because I believe that over time you gain a reputation of somebody who is believable or not believable. And I also believe that you start to believe whether you are trustworthy or not trustworthy, and that can be felt. Does it have to be exactly 5? No. Could be 4, could be 6, could be 8, could be 10. But 5 is a small enough number that there is a lot of scarcity. Right away, somebody knows that, oh, it's, the numbers are going to run out. Like, they're only looking for 5 people, so I should act quicker. 5 is a big enough number that you can get enough kind of feedback information on it, and also like make enough money on it for it to make sense. That's the reasoning for 5. If you want to choose a different number, choose whatever number your heart desires. I saw an interesting pricing strategy by somebody the other day. I wouldn't recommend it for something like this, but I thought it was really, really interesting. It was actually escalating pricing based off of purchases. And so the person was selling a new service, and they announced it internally to their list first before they announced it to the public. And I can't remember what the prices was, but it was something like every 20 customers, the price jumped $50. And so it was like $50 for the first 20, $100 for the next 20, $150 for the next 20, $200 for the next 20. It was something like that. It was on an escalator. And so immediately now, if the thing costs like $150 and you want it, you're going to jump on and buy that thing right away before the price goes up again, right? And I thought that was really interesting because of it's like a new way to kind of build urgency into the pricing. But I also feel like you kind of have to be really, really careful with those escalators because it has to be enough money that it's meaningful, but not too much that you reach that high point quickly where it's like, well, what's your thing going to cost eventually? Like thousands of dollars? Or are you just going to cap it? And then like how many total units are you going to sell with something like that? Anyway, it's kind of interesting.
I wonder how that would actually perform because in my mind, unless you can justify the price increase, that would tick me off. So you'd have to be able to justify that to make it make sense.
But that's like a Kickstarter Indiegogo crowdfunding hack. I mean, they all work like that, where the first people, the early adopters, get some deal or some extra or some
deal,
bonus.
yes, but like it's in what they get for the price versus I
guess so.
You'd have to do it right to
You have to really do it right. And I feel like with a lot of these things, I mean, even the law of candor too, right? From the 22 mutable laws, you have to be very, very careful with it because if you are admitting a negative, it can't take away from your perceived expertise. I think about that a lot with, a lot of the radical transparency movement. It's not so big now, but it was big like a year or two ago where it was like, yeah, admit your faults on the internet. People will connect with you. It's like, yeah, they will, but like, don't admit your faults about the shit that you're supposed to be an expert in, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And people
I've got a new program and unfortunately I can't read, but send me an email.
Like, it's just, it was the funniest thing. It was like everybody who was a fitness coach for like, guys who were trying to build on muscle all of a sudden talked about how they had a hard time putting on muscle. I was like, I feel like you're kind of doing this wrong. You know? Like,
good intention, wrong execution.
Like you're going to get engagement, but you're not exactly going to get a lot of people who are going to go out of their way to want to work with you. Out of all the people that they could work with in the world, why are they going with this guy? You're struggling with a thing. As opposed to somebody that they can help. Like, why don't you just like call yourself a mobility expert or like a science-based coach? Because then you don't need to be muscular. You know, it's like none of them are bad things, but don't call yourself a bodybuilding coach and then talk about how you struggle building your body. Like it just doesn't, you know. Anyway, whatever.
It's a good note, John. Had not considered that until you mentioned it just now. Oh, I'm horrible at everything I do. I've got a new program,
right? You see it with it's like transparency movement. It's funny
because people hop on things, man, and they hop on things out of context. It's what social media, if you've been there long enough, teaches you to do. It teaches you can have a shit post, but use this trending audio. That's more important today, right? So, that's just kind of how we're conditioned in an unregulated sales environment. You're much more likely to try to utilize trend to replace relationship, and trend does not ever replace relationship building. So people get lost in the sauce, man.
This is absolutely, that's we're gonna swing past that one too. This is absolutely something that's in. I can't remember whether it was the chapter that I just submitted or the one I submitted before, but I talk about that a lot about like what really matters and what are we paying attention to, and there's a difference between something that's easy to teach versus something that's really important. And the stuff that's easy to teach isn't necessarily unimportant, but it is given outsized attention because of how easy it is to teach. And that's a problem. So the premise of the Founding Client Challenge, before we go on to them, again, you've created a new 60-day fitness or nutrition program. Again, it doesn't have to be a new program. You could give it a new brand. You could give it a new name. You could just say you're evolving it, whatever, right? You say you need 5 founding clients max to help test it. Does it have to be exactly 5? No, but whatever you say, stick to it. Mm-hmm. And there's also a lot of value in selling out. Mm-hmm. And especially people who hang around you for a long time. Again, we keep saying this line, it's the lurkers, not the likers who actually buy. People notice when you sell out. And especially people who sit on the fence and don't get in, or they're thinking about something and they haven't made up their mind, and then you make an announcement that you sold out. Every time you do that, it's going to make your next sale better and better and better, versus there are some companies in our space that will not be named that send that reopen their cart after they close over and over and over again the exact same way, and they've been doing it for years, and then they give you extended 19-month payment plans, and it's you know, you kind of over time start to realize that it's just a complete nonsense, and so then you don't trust when they say go and buy this thing, right? Whereas what these guys do, Unbound Merino, you know, my buddy's clothing company, what they've done is brilliant, because they realize the biggest issue, one of the biggest issues with owning a clothing company, is the inventory is a nightmare. And so if you're stocking inventory, basically you've got to order your stuff far in advance for the season. So you've got to estimate how much you're going to sell that season. And styles come and go, although with them, styles don't come and go as much, because they're just, you know, it's regular plain tees and stuff, but styles come and go. So they've got to order them months in advance, pay for them months in advance. Then they've got a warehouse inventory. Then they've got to sell them. And whatever inventory they're stuck with, or they have to sell at a huge discount. Well, Unbound actually flipped the script. They started the first I don't remember the exact number, the first 8 or 10 items that they did, they actually did as a Kickstarter campaign. They did as an Indiegogo campaign. Every single item. So whenever they come out something new, they did a new campaign, and they pre-sold it, and they only ordered as much as they pre-sold. So they didn't get stuck with the inventory. So it was a way to very quickly see what killed, what didn't kill. But then they didn't get stuck with the inventory. And even ongoing now, what they do is they do very small order runs. They're a mature company, tens of millions of dollars. They're doing really, really well. But they only do very, very small order runs with new colors. They put stuff back in stock. They take stuff out of stock all the time. And if you're on their email list, you get multiple emails a week saying, this item's now back in stock. Oh, we sold out that one. And what that does over time as a consumer is it adds an element of believability to their promotions. You know that it's true that they're going to run out, because they do. And they kind of fabricate that with short order runs, but it also makes way more sense with their business, because you just don't want to get stuck with inventory from a clothing as a clothing company. And so over time, if you say, I'm accepting 5 clients and I have 7, people might not find out. But over time, if you say, and make a pronouncement publicly, we sold out, I'll see you again in 6 weeks. You don't have to do that very many times to actually see and witness and feel people jumping on your promotions when you first launch it, because they know you're going to sell out and they know they're going to have to wait. There's a lot of benefit in that. You don't have everything figured out yet. Part of why I like this type of promotion is because it helps with a lot of that nagging feeling that whatever we do has to be perfect because we're selling it. This damaging admission of saying this is something new, and that's why I'm offering a discount, actually allows you to be imperfect and invites people to come along on this experiment with you.
Yep.
Which gives you a lot more internal permission to make it up as you go. The type of person who signs up for something like this is the type of person who likes to be a part of the new thing. They're the type of person who likes to discover an indie band to talk to everybody how cool that indie band is. And then when that band goes mainstream, they say they sold out. It's not because the music changed. It's because certain types of people like to participate in things that are new and developing.
I do that with software all the time. Like, I'm constantly trying new stuff because I find it interesting, but I like being on the ground floor to see, how it works and being able to offer input.
And I'm the opposite. I'm a super late adopter for everything. I need to be told by at least 15 people that a movie is good before I see it. And software, I'm such a late adopter. But I pay full price for stuff. Mm-hmm. And I accept that. And I'm often going to pay a higher price for something. And I'm not going to get grandfathered in on a thing at the lower price.
Right.
And so there's pros and cons to it, right? But that's my point. Different people are different.
Yep.
That's me with certification courses. I'm an early adopter. I want to be in that first cohort every time that I can.
And that's why you've put Calvin through college. I appreciate that.
Exactly right.
And now I'm paying you back a tiny fraction of the amount of money that you paid me over the years for my education.
And that with the constant threat of pink slipping me. Still more beneficial on your end, John.
Yeah. So you haven't figured everything else yet. You're offering a huge discount, right? The discount is justifiable because the damaging admission, because you're new, you're figuring it out. And it starts on a firm date, right? Because this is a test group, I need data, I need case studies. And as a result, we're starting on Friday. What that allows you to do, of course, is follow up with anybody who's shown any kind of an interest on Thursday, on Friday, and say, we're starting tomorrow. We're starting today. Look, a no was perfectly fine, but I've been holding your spot. Can I give it away for somebody else, or are you in? If you don't have that firm date, then you can't do that, but you need to have a reason for that firm date, or it is kind of bullshit. And, a lot of promotions I'm sure that you see online, you look at them and you're just like, it's a digital product, dude. You're not limited in quantity. Like, I've seen you run this promotion twice a year for the last 6 years with the exact same, oops, forgot to insert the link email 2 days after the thing. Because I did that, I'm going to open it. Like, it's just...
so bad.
Bullshit. I'd like to interject something here, John, if I can.
U to the double L, S-H-I-T. Bullshit.
Oh, there's my new ringtone. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Teach the choir that for Dad's church service this Sunday. But I'd like to interject something here because there's something super important right here that easily gets glossed over. And that is both the rigidity of your program and the honesty of what you promise. And right. It's so important down the road. It may not be important the very first time, and John already alluded to this, but it's so important down the road that as people talk about your service, and they're going to talk about it, like once people get in it, they're going to talk to other people about it, and you don't know who those people are going to be. Right. It's so important that they reflect what you said before the program started. Like, oh yeah, we had 5 people, or yeah, we started on that day and all the information came out and we stopped taking people on this day and this happened. It's super important, but also is the fact that people associate professionalism with rigidity. And this is something that I talk to our students about all the time in the OTA mentorship. Not OT. Why don't you name them both mentorship, John? I got a bone to pick with that one because people get confused when I say mentorship.
We changed it. My team gave me shit. I think OTA. What's the coaching upgrade in OTA officially called? I remember
1-to-1 support.
Yeah, okay. 1-to-1 support. I know. My team gives me shit for naming all the time. I would make their life much easier if we named it better.
In any case, one of the things I talk about in 1-to-1 support, because I guess I work there now, is whatever. Is the fact that people view professionalism through rigidity. I don't know what's going on, John. I'm just a guy on a podcast pretending he took a shower.
There was such a tone of just acceptance with that. It was like,
did it feel genuine?
Like when you were young, and your mom asked you what you wanted to do when you grew up, You said, wow, I really want to work for one-on-one support.
Okay.
One-to-one support mentor. If you say so. Whatever. I'll just turn the hat around now.
I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a teacher.
Right.
I want to work on one-on-one support with some guy I've only met twice.
Whose son I've sent through college. So, but if you go into a doctor's office and the doctor, if the lady doesn't give you the clipboard, if the lady at the corner back door doesn't call your name, because if they don't put you on the scale, you'll think, what the fuck is going on at this doctor's office? This is a shit show. And that's how people view your business when you just let them do anything at any time, any kind of way they want to. So
and that's how you view your own
That's
business.
how I view my own business. So you're going to escalate your own imposter syndrome by not having rigidity built into your processes.
If you don't take pride and be honest with your own business, with the messages you're putting out, if you don't align with it, then who will?
Yeah,
it has to start with you as the leader of your thing.
Turning yourself into a non-believer.
Even if nobody notices, there will absolutely be things that nobody will notice. If you try to deceive others, you will absolutely be successful sometimes. And you will get away with it sometimes. But you know the truth. And that's what comes out.
There's a line in the movie that I watched. I can't remember what the movie is, but I took the line with me and I say it all the time. And then something happened in the movie and the guy said, that shit always works sometimes. I can't remember what movie that was, but it applies here.
Yeah.
That shit always works sometimes.
That works every time,
Anchorman.
Sometimes.
Yeah, of course, the Anchorman line, 60% of the time, it works every time. That doesn't make sense.
There was a good Yogi Berra ism as well.
The
about
best.
that.
Yogi Berra the best.
Oh my God, what was it? It was so good. Take up time, I'll find it. He goes, baseball is 90% mental and the other half is physical.
That's perfect. That's right. I'm going to use that for my clients.
He goes,
fitness is 90% mental and the other half is physical.
I'm going to put that on my Instagram.
Be a good post.
Jot that down, John. Jot that down. Put that down.
Yeah,
but don't lie about your thing, man. It's not. And don't let people walk all over it because they will develop less respect for you because you gave them what they asked for. They want you to. I'm not going to go any further down that road. I see
that's
myself.
a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about how they got their clients. Let's talk about how they got their founding clients. And so, surprise, surprise, the trainers reached out to their existing network. Some of them absolutely had email lists or social media pages, but many of them didn't. Or if they had social media pages, they weren't like social media pages where they had been building trust and reputation for this thing on it already. They had it with friends or whatever it was, which is useful. But it's not like they had like customers waiting to buy in, etc. So most of them didn't. This is not the type of thing, like we ran this out to 930 people. I don't know what percentage of them, Amber, would you say had 5,000 followers on social media that like knew what they did? Like 2?
Yeah, exactly.
Like nobody did.
It's infinite.
But what they all discovered was that they had a list. You have a list. Everybody has a list. Friends, family, and old colleagues who you can reach out to. All that we taught them was how to not be super weird about reaching out to them. The rapper Pitbull, in his song Feel This Moment, actually shared the secret to really effective and non-awkward outreach. He goes, ask for money and get advice. Ask for advice, get money twice.
That was surprisingly good. I don't know what I was expecting there.
Right.
But that was well done.
For Pitbull?
Bull. Yeah.
For Pitbull?
The fact that it matched that well, yes. And that you know it.
Yeah.
What do you mean that it matched that well?
it just fits so perfectly that I was just shocked.
It's in the book. This is what I do.
I know. I'm just fascinated at how perfectly that went.
Yeah, it took a freaking long time.
I know.
This is one of the fascinating things about writing, and completely unrelated to founding client stuff. But this is one of the fascinating things about writing is that when the time comes, Amber, you'll read the book, and it will be impossible for you to know which phrases or passages took me 2 minutes and which ones took me 2 weeks.
Yep.
That's just kind of.
I'd love to see an edited version where you highlight that.
Yeah, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
It would. 6.5 hours on this paragraph on Tuesday, July 2nd.
I mean, I can tell you, the first, well, like the thing, a lot of nonfiction books that you read, I think, fall flat largely because they backload all of the best stuff. It's actually much better to front load it. Anybody who knows anything about readers knows that most readers never make it to the end of the book, and they especially don't make it to the end of the book if the front of the book is lame. And most beginnings of books, especially nonfiction books, are like scene setting. It's like all these meta review analysis, or, you know, here's how the world exists and whatever, right? And you're just like, get to the point, man. Whereas the really great nonfiction books really front load the value. I mean, it hits you at the beginning, and then the middle is often kind of the necessary, call it scene setting type stuff. And then the end, you've got such an understanding that the end is almost like a celebration, and like, here's why this really matters. And here's kind of like the deeper why. Like, you came here to build your business, but like, here's the deeper why of why this matters.
It's like the first value principle works there too. So that's kind of interesting. Like,
what's that?
Wouldn't have thought. So like when you run a business, the first quick win, right? Like we tell students to do in the first 30 days to get that first quick win. I wouldn't have thought to put that principle in a book.
It's content.
Yeah.
What do you do when you want to get somebody to watch a YouTube video? Or what do I do at the beginning of every podcast? I always tell a hook. That when I'm giving a talk anywhere, when I do that, I often don't really know where the talk's going to go. Like, I have an idea, but I don't really know where the talk's going to go. But I always memorize the first line. The first line, the hook, is always memorized. And the same with this podcast. I don't know where the podcast is going to go. It's probably going to be dick jokes. But what I do know is...
We can only hope.
That's what she said. But the first line is always the hook, right? And podcasts that like do editing, I mean, what they'll do is they'll actually record the whole podcast, and then somebody will go back and they will record an intro basically talking about the value. I mean, I don't think that's a bad way, but that just sounds like a lot of work, and I don't want to do it. But it's the same concept with all content. So why would that not apply to books? I guess is my
musically.
question.
Same thing as music. Barry Gordy from Motown, famous for saying the first 10 seconds of any song have to be a hit for us to have a hit record. And he would go through dozens of Temptations, Diana Ross, Marvin Gaye songs, and if the first 10 seconds he just toss it. He didn't even want to hear the end of the music, at the end of the song. It's pretty consistent across.
It's scene setting. So I struggled a lot with the first chapter for The Obvious Choice, and I think it is now unbelievably strong. But it's also going to be the shortest chapter by like over 1,000 words, because call it like a slippery slope too. Like you almost want to, it's a slippery slope. It's like a slide. You almost want to like slide people into the deeper stuff. You can't start them with the deeper stuff. So it's considerably shorter. So you feel like you're making a lot of progress quicker. And then I think it's like chapter 5 is like 4,500, 5,000 words. Chapter 1 is like 1,600. I mean, it's that different. And so there's a lot of these types of things that are by design. I don't know why we got into this, but I just think it's really interesting.
I don't know either. I just know that even if it's shorter, you want to slide into the slippery stuff and go deeper.
Yeah. So the rapper Pitbull. So the rapper Pitbull in that song talks about the importance of not asking for money, but asking for advice. And so here was their, call it, permission launch process. Identify the type of person that their program could help.
Mm-hmm.
Write down the names of 15 people that they are already connected to in that market. Ideally, it's more than 15. You have more than 15. And if you can't think of 15 people, you have chosen the wrong market. I'm going to repeat that again. If you can't think immediately of 15 people that you know that you're connected to, you have chosen a market because you think it's a good market for financial reasons versus it is the right market for you. So choose a different market. Number 3 is you're going to reach out to them with a personal message and ask them for advice on a new project that you're doing. So here's just a basic outreach message you can say. Hey, Ren, I'm working on something exciting and I would really benefit from your insight and feedback. Its goal is to help working moms organize their chaotic life a bit better. Now, I know you're super busy, but is there 15 to 20 minutes in the coming days we could chat on the phone to learn more about your day-to-day so that I can figure out where I'm right and wrong with what I'm building? You're not even telling them that it's a fitness thing necessarily. I mean, you could, but what you're doing is you're asking for a favor from them. You're asking them for advice. Benjamin Franklin figured this out. In his autobiography, he talked about Benjamin Franklin, the founding father, right? What he identified is that people have a bias towards consistency. If they act one way, they will often act the same way over and over and over again. And so there was somebody, I guess a political opponent or something like that, that didn't like him, that he wanted to be friends with, he wanted to make friends with, because it was somebody who could be an important political ally. So he wrote to him. He found out that this guy had this like unique book in his collection when books were unique. And he wrote a letter to him. And he asked him to borrow this book from this person. Well, it's a very easy yes, but you don't lend somebody something that if you don't trust them. So he lent Benjamin Franklin the book. Benjamin Franklin sent it back with a note thanking him for lending him the book, how much he really appreciated it. And according to Franklin, until his death, this guy was a supporter and political ally. Because this guy did a favor for him. And if you do a favor for somebody, you're biased towards consistency to do more favors. So at the end of the call that you have with this person, what the trainer would say is that they thank them and try to think of like one thing specifically that this person said and thank them for it. And they say that the regular price when they run out this program, which is going to be whatever, Friday, 5 days from now, or whatever, they're going to start the group, is going to be $500. But the price for the founded client group for the first 5 people is going to be 60% off, which is going to be $197. It's going to start next week. Then they asked if their friend knew anybody who might be interested. They didn't say, do you want to sign up? In some cases, the person said, yeah, I might be. In which case, the trainer tried to take either the payment or a deposit right there on the spot. And, but I mean, this isn't even about selling to friends or family, but if friends or family want to sign up, then that's fine. Again, it's not awkward to reach out to them because you're asking them for advice. In some cases, the person said, no, I don't really know anybody who's interested. Hey, no problem. Really, really appreciate your time. In some cases, the person gave him a name and made an introduction and said, hey, John's doing this really, really great thing. It starts on Friday. Just had a conversation with him about it. Sounds really, really great what he's putting together. I immediately thought of you. Right? But not everybody that you speak to is going to send you somebody. Either way, even if they don't, as long as they don't like full on say like, no, I don't know anybody. I'm not interested, which they probably won't. You thank them. And then you follow up with them on the Thursday or the Friday or whatever it is before the deadline and say, hey, just want to touch base one more time. We've got 2 more spots. Wanted to see if you knew anybody. Today's the last day. And if they say they might be interested, then you follow up with them in a bit different way. Say, hey, can you please let me know today? I'm holding your spot. And you're going to basically get a response from everybody. And then, of course, they promoted their founding group across their social media platforms or email lists if they had it. Some also sent cold emails directly. So like they didn't do this like permission launch part. They just sent cold emails directly to more people than the 15. asking if they wanted to participate or knew anybody who wanted to participate, basically pitching it. Most didn't feel comfortable doing that. And to be honest, it didn't really work anyway. So there wasn't much point in doing it. And that was about it. On the final day before the deadline, if the trainer had any spots left, they looked for people to send a last chance follow-up reminder to anybody who showed interest. They put it across their platforms again, and 84% of them were successful. And my guess is the 16% who weren't successful didn't really follow it.
I can guarantee that we've done so many reviews of people doing their founding client challenge. They'd reach out like, this didn't work. And it's like, okay, like, let's take a look at the situation so we can see maybe what happened. And like, we don't know what they were doing, but it wasn't the founding client challenge.
Well, so why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? I mean, we can shit on them, and I'm happy to, because what I told them to do didn't work, and that's obviously not my fault. That's their fault. But if I were to take accountability for their success because they did something that I asked them to, if they didn't do it, then it goes to follow that I need to take accountability for that not working as well. Mm-hmm. So, what about it do you think was confusing or difficult, or what? Why?
They didn't feel comfortable a lot of times. Like we tell ourselves so many stories in our heads about what someone is going to say to us that I think they freak themselves out. And so they don't really follow through on the reaching out part, or they go too hard and don't do it in like a conversational way. And it feels very like sales pitchy. And so they deviate from the intention of the exercise. And so it's usually one of those two extremes. They're either way too timid and they maybe do like an eighth of it because they're so scared, or they go so hard that they're in car salesman mode.
Interesting.
Agreed.
So they go so hard that it's a car salesman mode. What does that look like?
They don't pay attention to like what we're actually telling them to say. It's like, hey, I have this thing. It's for, this type of person who wants to achieve this thing. You win. Instead of like, again, like asking for feedback, it's they go in to sell. They don't go in to ask for help. And it's so obvious. And so I think, and Ren can share what he has ran into, but that's what I see. Like I've had students send me their conversations. I'm like, you didn't like follow it at all. Like you took what you thought was supposed to happen and didn't finish reading what we shared and did your own interpretation or what you thought we were going to tell you.
It's 100%.
I always find that interesting when it's like, oh, this didn't, I felt like I had a better way. It's like, we have done this with thousands of people and taken in feedback and tracked what worked or what didn't work. You've never done this before. How can you reasonably think that you know more about what works or what doesn't work than what we're telling you to do? Sure, kind of make it yours, but take in feedback. Why don't you do what we say, because we've done this so much with so many people first, feel how that feels, see how that works or doesn't work, and then iterate after that versus... no, that won't work. It's like, I feel like there's just some stories you're kind of telling yourself here.
It's like eating healthy and exercising works for creating a better body. And then people are like, well, I need all the supplements. Like, no.
What?
Like, why are you?
Yeah.
The simple thing is usually the correct answer. It's just hard to do.
When you're working with low self-awareness, you'll attempt to correct things that don't feel comfortable for you instead of correcting your limiting beliefs about the thing, because you don't have high enough self-awareness to say, I feel uncomfortable reaching out to these people and using this script. However, I know what I've done in the past hasn't worked. So I'm going to push my own boundaries and try to stick as close to this as possible to then determine whether it's helpful or not. When you don't have that self-awareness, you say, I know a better way, right?
Yeah, right.
Because it's always the external reasons why you're not having success. It's never a reflection on you. So it's difficult for those folks. That I'm a bad golfer, right? I admit that, but I like to be out there. I like to be out there with my friends. One of the problems that I have is hitting out the fairway, which is basically means the ball's not on the tee, it's on the ground. Use an iron to strike it. Well, the irons are angled so that if you swing through them, they go up and the ball goes in the air, right? I like to try to lift the ball because I think I need to make the ball go in the air with a different kind of swing. Ultimately, I kill thousands of earthworms at a time. And sometimes our students are like that. You give them the tool that will launch the thing that they want, but they want it to be higher, and they know a better way to make it go higher.
Yeah.
And then you render the tool ineffective, and the earthworms die.
So really, just stop killing earthworms is the title of this episode.
Stop killing the earthworms. Save some for the fishermen.
Not actually the title of this episode. Ever. The title of this episode should be "How to Get 5 New Clients This Week."
Well, that's a good title, John. I'd listen to this episode.
Yeah, that's what better than I thought it would. So thank you for.
We try to have low expectations so we could really just soar above them occasionally.
No, I think we normally do a good job, but you never know where a conversation is going to go sometimes, and I feel like we did a good job of getting off track and on track. But even when we were off track, there was good stuff. So I'm going to give you a recommendation for another episode to check out right now. If you're listening for another one, I'm going to recommend that you check out episode 147. It's called "Good Information, Bad Advice," and I feel like this is particularly apt. And every day that passes, this episode is going to become more and more and more important because there is so much information out there that is good information for somebody else, but bad advice for you. And I think it's really important to be able to delineate between the two and improve your inputs and improve your filter systems so that you know what to take in and what to ignore. This will help you with your business. This will help you, I think, with your personal life as well. So that's episode 147. It's called Good Information, Bad Advice. As always, thank you for listening. Really appreciate it. Please leave a review wherever you leave reviews as well. We really appreciate those. I think sometimes I see them. I see the number on Spotify, so that's a thing. But I hear they help. So I'm bad for asking for things, and I really don't like asking for things. I'm just happy you're listening. But here's me asking for something really badly. Please leave a review. Thank you, and that's the pod.